Now we come to day 6. Day 1, we talked about the goodness of God. Day 2, about the power of God. Day 3, about the giants in our life that may stand between us experiencing what God really has for us. Day 4, we talked about whose voice are we listening to? Are we listening to godly people who continue to breathe into our lives the hope that God has for us? And then day 5, we talked about what is it that we're missing when we give up on God's promises. And today we want to talk about finishing faithfully. Caleb was 80 years old. Caleb and Joshua were the only two who were able to enter the promised land. The others had died in the wilderness, and now the next generation was poised, ready to go in. And at 80 years old, Caleb says, "Give me this mountain." He had not forgotten the promises of God, and he had stayed faithful to God, continued to walk with him, and now he said, "God, give me this mountain, fulfill your promises. I want to enter the promised land."
And he did. God was good on his promise, and he's good on his promises to us as well. It's easy to give up, and sadly we live in a culture that accepts giving up easily. And we just want to remind us today that the journey towards the heart of God is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not something that we just easily can turn aside from because it's not working out for us. Our encouragement today is that we keep pressing on, holding on to the promises with our eyes fixed on Jesus, who is the perfecter and finisher of our faith. I am actually thinking today of 2 stories. One of a woman, a dear, dear friend of mine, who for 75 years has wanted to be married. I mean, I'm guessing she probably didn't start wanting to be married until she was maybe 18, so we'll take a few of those off. But she had many opportunities along the line of marriage, and none of them fit with what she felt God was calling her to, and so she steadfastly held on to God's promise that he would be enough for her, even though this unfulfilled desire of marriage would continue on in her life, and in a way that only God could orchestrate. My dear friend was married 1 month ago to a widower whom she had known since her college days and whose now deceased wife was her roommate. To me, it is a story of such grace and mercy and delight, and she is absolutely over the moon happy in her marriage, her long-awaited marriage. I also think of another couple who at the 30-year mark of marriage were ready to give up. Infidelity had interrupted their marriage in a really, really big way, and after a 1.5 years of separation, in what looked like a situation that could never be redeemed, there was genuine repentance and there was reconciliation. And that couple is closing in now on their 70th anniversary. And each time we connect with them, one of the things the wife says to me is, "Imagine what we would have missed out on. God has been so gracious." And so we just want to encourage you today. We know that there are a lot of things that are heavy on our hearts and in our souls today. We know that many of us are facing hardships that we didn't expect ever to face, that are in large part caused by this pandemic that we're enduring. But we want to just remind us all today that God is a God of his word. He's a God that is all powerful, and he can meet us. He's promised to be enough for us.
Today we're going to ask you as a couple to think about the promises that God has for you in marriage, and then to ask him to help you not lose focus on those promises and on his power to deliver.